Hey folks, how you doing? Well, we're almost there. It's time for our, essentially penultimate session. What is it? It is session 13.2a. And here we are now talking about conventional medicine in the 21st century. Because we can't talk about natural medicine, traditional medicine, integrative medicine, integrated medicine, complementary medicine, whatever the word you want to use about this in isolation. We're in a world where overwhelmingly people head towards conventional medicine. So it's important that we talk about that and close off our discussion, bookmark this particular discussion on the history of healing by talking about where conventional medicine is at. Now let's talk about that term, because conventional, when I use the term conventional medicine, I mean the type of medicine you get at the hospital, at outpatients, the type of medicine you get at your general GP. Sometimes it's described as orthodox medicine, and in some books, arenas, you'll hear it described as allopathic medicine, allo, Greek meaning opposite, allopathic medicine. So what's going on in the conventional, allopathic, orthodox medical world that we need to be aware of? You're probably aware of it anyway, because you read stuff and it's in the media all the time as well. But in this session we just want to talk about the developments, I suppose, in technologies, but also in philosophy, or lack of philosophy, when it comes to conventional medicine in the 20th and actually the 21st centuries as well. We've moved the whole way throughout human history. We've had a few forwards and backwards along the way, but we got to essentially the evolution of manual therapies, the evolution of naturopathy, the foundations of nutritional medicine. We've breezed through the history and the origins of homeopathic medicine, Ayurveda, Chinese medicine as well, and here we are, Western herbal medicine. So here we are now in the 20th and the 21st centuries, and talking about what's coming up for us and the context of what you see out there, and realizing that if we look at some stats, some numbers, some data, that people are flocking to complementary medicine. People are flocking to what we do, what you're learning. If you're concerned that after 15 weeks of study, in looking at all of this material, that you may be not in the right place, then you are definitely in the right place. For sure, you are in the right place. But it's important to understand the fact that many people are coming to see us for a bunch of reasons. And one is as a reaction against what's going on in conventional medicine. There's a number of our clients that are coming to see us as a reaction to the use of technology in the world, in medicine. The idea that if you talk to our folks and ask why, talk to our clients and ask why are you coming to see me, that they will tell you a bunch of things. But wrapped up in it all is a movement towards nature, a movement towards sustainability, a movement towards self-responsibility, and a movement away from the systematization and the commercialization and the overuse of technology in conventional medicine. There is a movement away from some of the excesses of conventional medicine, away from some of the worse than excesses, abuses, and let's not labour the point, but some of the things that we know have not been brilliant in orthodox medicine. The fact that until recently they didn't report the adverse findings of drugs in trials. The fact that many conventional drug trials were conducted in third world countries without real informed consent. The fact that the pharmaceutical industry has such sway, has such muscle, And the sense that really a lot of conventional medicine, the reality of a lot of conventional medicine is to a huge degree now grounded in evidence, but up to 50% of it is not grounded in evidence. And what I mean by that, if I can find it really quickly, is just a really interesting graphic. Yeah, I can't lay my hands on it really quickly, but just a graphic which we talk about sometimes in complementary medicine, which comes out of the British Medical Journal from I believe 2011. You can look it up, and it's a graphic which just confirms for us that up to 50% of all interventions in conventional medicine are not grounded in evidence or a piece of research whatsoever. That is a similar statistic in complementary medicine as well. So, the 20th century was dominated by the move to the randomly controlled placebo controlled trial. Randomized, blinded, the gold standard of all evidence. And it's important to celebrate that. It's important to look at the amazing advances in some areas of medicine because of the randomized trial, and look at the extraordinary drugs that have been developed, to look at the extraordinary interventions, especially surgical interventions, which have been developed as well. But the 20th century, the end of the 20th century, from the 50s through to the 2000s, was dominated by essentially a move to this this way of asking and answering a question. And the question is a simple one: can we know for sure that this will work? Let's test it, and let's use this method to test it. And for most questions, the placebo-controlled, blinded clinical trial is a good way to ask and answer the question: is this intervention going to be effective? But as we know, and as you'll learn in subjects such as foundations of critical inquiry, that way of asking and answering that question is fine if you're dealing with one intervention, one feature, one factor in an intervention, but not when you're looking at a holistic type of medicine. It's not impossible, but suddenly it becomes very difficult in Chinese medicine. It becomes very difficult in homeopathic medicine, and difficult in naturopathy. Less difficult in nutrition at the end of the day, but it provides some significant challenges. The other amazing advances in the 20th century were really with antibiotics. With vaccines, and as you can see there, measles, mumps, rubella, smallpox, diphtheria, a disease that no one hears about anymore, but was just all of those have been of significant influence in the course of human history in recent times. But now we don't hear of lots of people dying from influenza or diphtheria. Tetanus is of minor consequence when it comes to other killers on the planet. And you know, from Alexander Fleming on, and the discovery of penicillin, the proliferation and the development of antibiotics has transformed our lives. We cannot get away from it, and sometimes it has to be said, I think in natural medicine we sometimes airbrush history. You know, we Photoshop it a bit much by forgetting what it was like without antibiotics, what it was like without anesthetics, you know, what dentistry was like really without all of those extraordinary drugs. Also, there we should talk about the scientific understanding of vitamins, of foods, proteins, carbohydrates, their role, and things like X-rays as well. I mean, of incalculable importance in the course of the history of healing, the history of health. Extraordinary developments. MRIs, of course, as we head towards today. Blood typing, in the 20th century, X-rays, CT scans, heart surgeries, things which are almost commonplace today. We hear people talking about, oh, just have that piece of surgery and out I come. Organ and tissue transplantation were a feature of the end of the 20th century. And as we head towards the 21st century, the extraordinary developments in genetics, the Human Genome Project, transplants, extraordinary transplants, eyes replacing bits of bodies. 2003, the Human Genome Project was essentially completed. Just incredible that it happened so quickly, and we've almost moved on. Artificial DNA has been developed by Japanese scientists in 2008. The full facial transplant in 2008. The first kidney was grown in vitro in the US in 2013. I didn't see that in the news. I was busy that year, but that's interesting. The first human liver grown from stem cells in Japan in 2013. And in 2013, an extraordinary development, the first cure of HIV in a baby around the world. These things we cannot gloss over, even though we don't necessarily understand the technologies involved, and we've got other values when it comes to vitality and nature. These things are massive milestones in the history of healing as well. And really, the future of medicine, by the sounds of it, involves genetics, involves further developments of drug therapies, and essentially, if I'm reading between the lines, profiling to be able to determine at a very young age how one's health will roll out in one's life, like a carpet. Irrespective of what you do in your life, there is that degree of genetic knowing that exists right now. So future landscapes. For us in natural medicine, we've got some decisions to be made. Some of them are political, some of them are professional. That will affect you, and maybe it's important at this early stage to have an opinion. What do you think about the continued scientific testing of natural therapies? I'm sure if most of you might have put up your hand and said just then, what a stupid thing to say, Alistair. Of course we want scientific method of natural therapies. But when you scratch the surface on that question, you come up with some really interesting things. You see, if I give you an example from homeopathy by way of questioning that. At the moment, if you apply the highest, most robust scientific methods and reasoning, then we know for sure that there are 9 conditions that homeopathy can treat. Right? Only 9 of 500 named conditions. Irrespective of the fact that homeopaths for 200 years have been treating those 500 conditions, there isn't the highest end robust research at the moment to test homeopathy and headaches. Yep, at the moment scientifically homeopathy doesn't treat headaches. Homeopathy has been demonstrated to be useful in fibromyalgia, in allergic rhinitis, in premenstrual syndrome, and in upper respiratory tract infections, and some others as well. So what does that mean? Does that mean that homeopathy needs to limit itself to what we know now, or do what we've done for 200 years with successful results? So do we wait for science to catch up? Do we ask a different question? Do we want to demonstrate that our therapies are effective in named conditions? Or do we want to answer a different question, and that question is, do we want to test if our treatments are effective full stop? Those are different questions. And those different questions create significant challenges for the scientists, and that's you actually as well, that are interested in this stuff in natural medicine. Big questions there. Also big questions about how we want to pitch ourselves in the public health landscape. Do we want, as acupuncturists have done in Australia, to become nationally registered in a process where the government regulates what you do, what you say, how you treat? Irrespective of the 4,000 years of Chinese medicine, this is the way that the acupuncture profession has chosen to go in Australia. And there's some strong benefits, incredibly strong benefits to that. Acupuncture is professionally, politically in a better position than naturopathy right now in Australia. Naturopathy is self-regulated. Homeopathy is self-regulated. Massage is self-regulated. But at the same time, education has run ahead. In the last 20 years, education is 20 years ahead of where we are in terms of regulation with the government. Two different government departments essentially are talking to each other. Our medicines are not regulated in the same way that our education institutes have sprinted ahead with amazing quality education. Here you are studying a Bachelor of Health Science, benchmarked to every other Bachelor of Health Science degree in the world. How good is that? How amazing is that? Now, education is going very, very quickly in natural medicine and complementary medicine, whereas the questions around regulation and the access to medicines are not. So these are some of the questions going on in the naturopathic industry and the nutritional medicine industry in the Chinese medicine industry right now. It's also important to remember that one of the major talking points in the media, in the blogs, on the websites, in the hallways, in the college, is about the degree to which integration is a reality, will be a reality. Because with the increasing evidence and with the increasing number of people coming to see natural medicine practitioners, we've got to really talk about the degree or the way in which complementary medicine is integrated into public health systems. You see, integration means incorporation into. Now, does that mean that it will be the naturopaths, the professional naturopaths like yourselves, that are working alongside the physicians in the general practice? Or does it mean that the general practitioners will be learning natural medicine at colleges, a little bit of it, to augment what they already do and know? Yeah. So these shifts are already happening. We know they're happening. We see it all the time. In Sydney and Melbourne, you see it more. In the inner cities of the big cities, in London, New York, it's just kind of been happening for a long time, where you see expensive, orthodox medical clinics with offering homeopathy and naturopathy in a very integrated, very polished way. We see it less and less and less in smaller, more rural areas where you've still got more traditional values around general practitioners as well. Of course, there's exceptions to what I just said there. But Australians are embracing complementary medicines, and there is a question to which complementary medicine practitioners will be in the thick of that in a meaningful way, or orthodox medical practitioners, conventional medical practitioners will be in the thick of it. The number of randomized trials in complementary medicine doubles every 5 years, and of course that's coming down and down and down. If you look at how many trials in Chinese medicine there were in 1980, it's astronomically, exponentially huge compared to that time. It went like this, very, very gently, and then up and up and up and up, and suddenly in 2005 it was this, and now it's gone bang, straight up, to the extent that there are now thousands of clinical trials in Chinese medicine. Now, it will happen with the others, there's no doubt about it, but the 50 systematic reviews of complementary medicine needs to be 500, needs to be 5,000 before we really get significant traction. And of course, at the same time, you can just imagine what's going to happen if you ever turn out to an Endeavour College graduation, as you will in a few years' time. You're going to see that the increased education standards count for a lot, and patients will continue to flock to see us because they feel safe, knowing that there's a standard that every practitioner has met, and if they don't have that standard, then they're not going to come. Previously, there was no guarantee about that. 20 years ago, the qualification of naturopaths or homeopaths was a diploma, if you were lucky. So the global reaction towards complementary medicine needs to be understood. I think you need to really reflect, ask your family, ask your friends, ask your colleagues, ask your loved ones, what do you think about complementary medicine? What do you think about natural medicine? Why do you choose to see an acupuncturist or a homeopath? And I think it's very important that you get familiar with those answers, to be able to respond to legitimate questions, as technology just becomes so fine-tuned, and as everything moves inexorably towards the uptake of technological solutions, just as we're doing right now with education, people have a reaction against it. And so get clear your own feelings about that, and get clear about your potential clients' feelings about that as well. We know for sure that our clients very often have significant opinions about big business, about big pharma, about the systematization. What happens when you go to the hospital and you get triaged and you realize that you're in the system? When you go to the private hospitals and for your colonoscopy or for your skin check, you realize the degree to which you are in that conveyor belt, and people are dehumanized by it. They hate it at some level. They love it because they want to feel safe about their health, but they hate the impersonalization and the conveyor beltness of it, the marketness of it, the systematization, just as in the same way that people react against factory farming, and the way they react against franchising and supermarkets and stuff. They worry about the expense of drugs, about the untested methods of how a drug gets to market. Just because it works on a rat, does that mean that humans are big rats? We know that there's stockpiles of ineffective drugs around different parts of the world. The one that I was reading about recently was the billions of dollars worth of Tamiflu, which is stockpiled in the UK, and we know is ineffective against virtually all forms of influenza, especially bird flu. But nevertheless, a directive to sell that, and the incentives given to physicians to sell that incredible stockpile of ineffective medicine. We have opinions about that. What do we do about it? The commercialization of our health, and the fact that so many of the stakeholders are big industries. So be mindful of the fact that you've got strong reactions to that. You've got strong opinions about that. Not all of your clients will have the same opinions about that. Just be mindful of that as well. Realize that the opponents of natural medicine don't share your values about natural things, about biodynamic, about certification, about cost. Remember that there's folks out there that say genetically modified food is the ethical thing to do to feed the starving populations in a cost-effective way. Now that will be an argument that you might disagree with, but you're going to have to realize that it's a strongly held view in some areas. I've just channeled that, by the way, folks. So, question: why are they coming to see us? Because we provide choice, because we are safe because we have a smaller footprint, because we have values that are different about whole systems and a view which doesn't involve deconstructing things to their lowest common denominator. We tend to, if we can, avoid massive commercial enterprises in the delivery of what we do. And we spend time with people, and we listen to them, and we hear them, and we are also deeply fulfilled by that particular role, which at the end of the day is one of the loveliest ways that you can think of earning a living on the planet. I can't think of many better jobs than that. Listening to people and hearing their stories and actually having some tools and some strategies to assist. So we're almost there. The only other thing to talk about now is essentially, at this stage in your journey, the scope of what we can and we can't do. And that is a particular topic that we'll just ease into right now. And then we're done. I really hope at this stage of your journey that you're ecstatically excited. I really hope that you see the potential of what we offer, of what you have the capacity to deliver. One of the things that we hear in this subject, just going back to the very beginning, whatever it is, 13 weeks ago, is that people turn up at this college feeling excited and passionate, motivated, activated, on a journey, and ready to go. I really hope that after this journey in this subject, that you've still got that passion, that you see that there's a long journey. Yep, there's a journey of all of those other subjects, all that other information, but you're up for it, and you've still got the hard drive for it as well. Things change on a journey. Sometimes we need to go faster or slower. We never come into the study of natural medicine and leave the same way. So my signing off message to you is all the best with your particular individual journey, and I'll see you around the traps, and it's been brilliant to have you along for the ride, and we'll see you soon. Ciao.